Hello and welcome to the Michael Mamas Show. I'm your host, Michael Mamas, and we're coming to you from Mount Soma, home of the Sri Someshwara Temple in the mountains of Western North Carolina. Getting a lot of rain here lately. I guess it's better. Boy, if this was all snow instead of rain, like I guess they're getting up north, we would have had a lot of snow, boy. Anyway, today's subject, beyond trance states. I don't know, trance states, we could probably find a nicer term that sounds pretty pejorative, really, but the idea is that, on one level, there is such a thing as like trance states. I've talked about that with left-handed tantra and how they get in there and they control your mind, and all that is real. But I've also talked about the chit, the subconscious mind, and how really we function more from the programming from the subconscious mind than we really do from the conscious mind. We might feel like and think that our conscious mind is really what's determining our thoughts and our feelings, our emotions, and all that. But so much of it is really more a function of the subconscious. And the idea back from Maharishi Patanjali is that we have impressions from all our past experiences, not just this lifetime, but, all the way back in past lives or whatever. And that kind of creates a state of the subconscious mind. And that's what determines any experience we have, that determines how we experience it, what our experience of it is. And so in that sense, we're living in a trance state, right, Scotty?
Yeah, for sure. Now, you said something I haven't heard you say before, which is the chit being a part of the subconscious mind. Because, well, I guess that would happen just because those impressions, depending on where we are on that scale of things, would be visible to us or not.
Yeah, that you could say that chit equals the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And it's the subconscious mind, we'll say it again, that really determines how our conscious mind functions and what we believe and what we think and what we feel. So it's really all in the subconscious. And so a lot of our evolution is about modulating those vrittis, modulating those impressions as a thought, or wells up from the depth of our being, our divinity, Chaitanya, the absolute. But as it wells up there, these influences from the subconscious mind kind of tweak it a certain way, spin it a certain way, determine when it rises to the surface of our conscious mind, how we feel about it, what we think about it. And so whatever experience we're having, that's what's going on. And I even talked about how even in the state of enlightenment, and this is an important one because, these podcasts, and I wrote about this a little bit in the blog associated with this podcast, but they're really about, let's take a deeper look at these things, kind of like the idealized notion of enlightenment is, okay, great, you're enlightened, and so you get it and everything's great, and the thoughts well up from the depth of your being to the surface and seamless integration and everything's hunky-dory. It's not that way. You still have a body, and the body has karma, the body has conditioning. And so even once the intellect, the mind, the awareness is enlightened, even to the level of Brahmachaitana, full enlightenment, we're still functioning in a vehicle, and that vehicle has been described as what? A house of mud. And so even that influences, how we feel and what we experience. And that's just, one aspect, one example of, a lot of people really want a deeper understanding of spirituality. And, they go to the kind of the love and light perspective for that. And it's not even just that, because that's negative. It's, people we're only capable of going as deep as our consciousness allows us to go, our level of consciousness. And we hear things on that level, even if it's coming from a deeper level, we can only hear it on that particular level. And it's what we resonate with, it's what we want, it's what we believe, it's what we hang our hat on. And even in the field of the sciences, just like in geology, I mean, there's the tectonic plates, the idea, the tectonic plates, Scotty, like Africa and
For sure.
America, and these plates migrate and crash into each other. And then, so when the tectonic plate of India went up into Asia and crashed into it, the plates collide and cause the mountains to rise. And that's the Himalayas. But do you know that 30, 40 years ago, that was not really accepted among geologists? I was just talking to a professor of geology just yesterday, it was.
Huh.
And he was agreeing. He was like, and to this day, there's some geologists that, aren't really buying it, even though really by and large, it's just recognized. That's just the way it is. And we talked about how with the Hubble telescope or the James Webb telescope, and how they're seeing galaxies that are older than the Big Bang Theory would accommodate. And you would think, even in the field of hard science, of physics, that these guys are like rational. They hear something, okay, that's new information, great, so readjust, and we're logical thinkers. But I mean, when you've invested, and I had this discussion with that geologist professor just yesterday, when your whole life, your whole career has been invested into a particular perspective, it's not so easy to let go of, and plus so in that regard, but in a generalized sense, those are just a couple of examples. That's what I mean in the title here when I talk about going beyond trance states. Another example, I was talking to somebody a few days ago. Well, when I mentioned some new idea that was new to me too, and I found it really interesting, I said, hey, listen to this. And it was really interesting, Scotty, because I could just see, it was almost like you could see his brain just kind of like,
Right.
Categorize it, round file it, or put it in its proper category based upon my current trance state.
The black box of his mind. Boom, boom.
Yeah, it's just how our minds function, and you can't really judge it. I mean, we're in such overload, particularly these days with the internet and everything. We are in such overload of information that we can't possibly take the time it would require to go through each thing and process it fully, because for no other reason than we don't have the time to do it. And it's also, again, the way the physiology functions. So we do set up a mode of function of our awareness, things we identify with, things we believe in, and we proceed accordingly. And on some level, that's necessary. It's survival, and it's a healthy mode of function to some extent. But it's also, very, very limiting.
Michael?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of picturing, let's say we come in with this like pre-programming. So you don't eat this berry, you don't touch the flame, there's
okay.
that are good, right?
Right.
And we have all these things that are like limiting us somehow is it something where you put a compensator on it because you're not going to change that? And so now I have a default setting to this. So now I need to, or is there something through the process of softening that chit, that you actually soften the chit, which allows you to function better? Or you always have that? Or is it, maybe you can talk to that. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about.
No, I do. I get it.
Yeah.
I believe I get it.
Yeah.
There's just a basic knee-jerk reaction that one is unable to look past, unwilling to look past, etched in stone. And that's how we function. That's what we believe, and that's it. And it's a tiny little world that we live in. And that's an extreme. But in fact, that's even the analogy that's used, is that the chit, when in an undeveloped state, becomes like stone, and things are just etched in stone. And so to wipe that clear, to move past that, is very difficult. But as we evolve, the chit softens. It becomes like clay, so that, you know, you can get an impression in there from an experience, but it's easily, you know, rubbed out. And then it becomes more like gelatin, and then water, and then finally air, you know. But now it's a very interesting thing you bring up, Scotty, because then what happens then? Are you just this empty void of no views? And that's not it either, because see, here's what happens, is that then what happens is the modulations, the vritti, the way as our thoughts arise from our own inner divinity, that place where we're one with everything, we understand everything because we're one with it. We're living in harmony with nature on that deepest level. Then as things well up through the physiology and through the awareness, they are not distorted by the chit. But at the same time, what does it mean to be in harmony with nature? To be in harmony with nature means, for one, we're human beings, and human beings have certain qualities. They have certain needs. I even wrote in here the need for communion, the need for privacy, the need. We have different needs, and also there's the social needs, the cultural needs. And if you're living in harmony with nature, then you support those cultural tendencies, those cultural needs that are healthy and life-supporting. And so what does a person like that look like if you were to talk to them and work with them and interact with them? They don't really seem that much different than anybody else. Why? Because you're viewing them from your perspective with its whatever your chit determines, and that's what you decide is true and right. And so your viewpoint of them might be, well, they're not agreeing with me, and so they're wrong, you know, and boom, put them in your filing system. Is that responsive, Scotty?
Sure. But let's take somebody, you were talking about the example of somebody that's enlightened, and the fact that there's those things that are, you know, your karma and stuff you have to deal with, right? So
yes,
your chit is, let's say it's like air or beyond air or whatever, but you still have some things that come up. Is it, you still are kind of unaware of that because it's just happening because it's chit and that's what happens? Or
because the mind has one facet of the mind is the brain, and the brain is physical, and the brain has karma, and it does color things.
Yeah.
And see, that's a deeper level of understanding than a lot of people even maybe want to hear, because they want to believe that, okay, so you're going to get enlightened and everything's going to be hunky-dory and you're going to get everything and there isn't going to be any bias or any confusion. But even Lord Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, the course of action is unfathomable. The whole thing is unfathomable. And when you get enlightened, you don't all of a sudden them at all. And so then you might say, well, what about, you know, functioning spontaneously in harmony with nature? Well, I just explained that. And they talk about also, oh, well, wait a minute, when you're enlightened, you're supposed to be free from desires. And that's a good example to address, because on the one level, the body still has its karma, which is going to have desires. And also there's the living in harmony with nature. There are certain desires that are there because they're in harmony with nature. And so what do we mean then by freedom from desire? It takes on a whole new meaning that requires I think a deeper level of understanding, which I think we just provided, that really explains what that means. And then we have beliefs about what freedom from desire means, and doggone it, that's got to be it. And anything that's said that's not consistent with that is just wrong. And so it prevents us from going deeper. Also, the whole idea of anger. Oh well, when somebody's enlightened, they don't get angry. And so I remember once in a class I gave the example of when Jesus was turning over the tables at the marketplace. He was furious. He was angry. And somebody just couldn't let go of their idea that, oh no, when you're enlightened, you're not angry. And Jesus was enlightened, therefore he wasn't angry. Therefore he was just pretending to be angry. And so, moving past our programming, it's a delicate thing. And then it gets combined with, we have a way when we interface with one another. It seems pandemic. We have a viewpoint, and if somebody has a different viewpoint, we tend to move in the direction of, well, they're wrong. Now, even if you happen to be right, and even if they happen to be wrong, the cutting edge I'm talking about here is, how do you deal with that? What do you do with that? There's a tendency to, pummel them, to confront them, to go after them, to argue with them, to judge them, even if we don't say anything. In our own mind, we judge them. But there's a very different process, which is a lot healthier, and that is to say, okay, they're where they're at, I'm where I'm at, and I'm not talking about I'm okay, you're okay type thing, but I'm talking about how do we nurture one another, so that instead of trying to get them to function in a way where they're not capable of functioning because that's just where their level of consciousness is, that we nurture their current level of consciousness in an attempt to help them evolve, help them move forward, support them. And so somebody brought up to me the other day that they feel like, these podcasts, when we talk about Brahma Sutras and all that, it's just too deep. Can I simplify it? Can I make it more accessible? And I'll do my best to make it accessible and to make it understandable, but I'm not going to water it down. Somebody once said about my teachings, because they know, why am I not, hugely known and stuff. And they were saying the reason is because you how'd they put it? You sell a lot more baloney than you do Porsches, is what they said. And I'm not interested in selling baloney. I'm interested in giving a deep knowledge, as deep as my own level of consciousness, my own capability, I'm able to give. And I think it's something that people were thirsting for. Certainly I was. And it was a long time before I found the knowledge and the teachings that were consistent with my understanding. And I just gave a few examples about anger and freedom from desire and all of that. And so what my passion is really with respect to my podcast and my teachings is to try to help people, to nurture them, but at the same time, don't, what's the word? Don't patronize them.
Michael?
There's the degree of pushing, let's go deeper. Come on. Here's an invitation. Come on. There's a deeper understanding. Let's look at it. Let's move forward. Our evolution is knowledge and evolution of our knowledge integrated with experience and the deepening of our experience. And if we white knuckle hold on to a certain level of understanding, it freezes the whole thing. Yes, Scotty?
I can talk from my own experience because, I mean, we've been together now since the 90s. And I remember going through the first one back then, it was Surya 1. And, hearing everything, thinking I've heard everything, and then coming back even, months later, years later, whatever. And then all of a sudden wow, this is something I really understand now. And then thinking that I understood it in the first, but you told it to me in the first Surya, but I didn't hear it until later. So it was like having these washings that came over me, and then through time, like you were talking about, deeper and deeper understandings of it. So it's not the, we talk about holding hands and swaying and doing all these things that, make people feel good, but your knowledge is something that, I don't know, like you've used the term, creeps in like a thief in the night, where all of a sudden, wham, it hits you when you're able to understand it. You know what I mean? After massaging it and having it wash over you several times.
Yeah, how have I said that? It's not about new facts. It's about a deeper level of understanding of the facts you already had.
Yeah.
And people want to get educated. They want to get knowledge, and they have a tendency to try to get more information. But and that's fine. That's good. I like that too. But what our evolution is really about is what you just said, Scotty. It's getting a deeper level of understanding of the facts we already have.
Yeah, and I remember being there, going, thinking to myself, my God, what did he just say? Or try to repeat it to somebody, and there's zero chance of that, even 10 minutes after hearing it. And then over time, just exploring and working with it. And,
yes, Scotty, you said such a beautiful thing there. And I hear that a lot. It's like students have even said they don't even try to repeat what I teach because they just can't. And here's what I believe that's about. Deep inside, we already know everything. Deep inside, we already know everything. We are one with everything. But on the surface, we're functioning, we're in a conditioned trance state. I don't like the word really, but anyway, we're conditioned, programmed to function and see things on a certain level in a certain way. But when you hear the knowledge coming from a deeper place, it resonates with that deeper level within us, within our own self. And so we're like, yeah, wow, that's it. That's great. Like a lot of people have said to me, I've been looking for this my whole life, But then after the lecture, they go out and try to repeat it, and they can't. Because this is where they resonate with on a daily level, even though at the depth of their soul, they're resonating with this deeper level of understanding. But see, that's part of the process. If you're willing to do it, you resonate with it. And even in states of confusion, it might be, oh man, I don't know what he's talking about. But on some level, you're hearing it. And so that's slowly, we don't want to say melts the ice, or there's probably a better expression, but slowly, it helps us awaken to deeper levels of our own understanding. You see?
Yeah. And that's not the preferred method for a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah. People, it's not uncommon that someone doesn't like it. You're messing with their belief system, and they don't want to think that evolution is about evolving their belief system. They want to think that their evolution is about just getting better at their current belief system.
Yeah. Or tap my forehead and.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other thing, isn't it? Boy, right. Somebody sent me this thing. I don't know where it came from, but I really liked it. It said, let me find it here. It's in the podcast. It's in the blog at michaelmamas.net. But the strongest people are not those who show strength in front of the world, but those who fight and win battles that others do not know anything about. Wow. I mean, that's true, first of all, as our own individual battles, you know, and even if we want to communicate them, we really can't. They're too deep, they're too subtle. But, and also, just, I mean, you know what? I developed Mount Soma. I'm running Mount Soma. I build Mount Soma. I'm trying to build an enlightened city. I'm doing all of this. And the obstacles are unbelievable on a daily basis. And I couldn't begin to describe it all or explain it all. And it would be hard for people to hear it anyway. But when I saw that quote, whoever sent thank you, I found it comforting, you know. I would like at some point, I don't want to write not many people spend the time to read whole long books anymore, but I'd like to at least write something, a short story or short essay or something that would just describe the experience of building an enlightened city and the nature of the obstacles that one comes up against. I used to make jokes. Remember, Scotty, years ago, before we even had Mount Soma, about you know, oh, we're on this mission and stuff, and you know, no enlightened being would want to do it, and so they just all decided, well, let Mikey do it, you know.
Yeah.
And boy, I can understand why. You know, I didn't understand. I thought I was just being funny, but there's actually a profound level of truth to it. But I'm committed to it. That's why I'm here. And the trouble with writing something about that and describing it in detail is it's so incredible. It's unbelievable. So I think maybe people might enjoy reading it as a story, but they wouldn't even be able to, I don't think, largely by and large, a lot of people wouldn't even be able to believe it's true. You know, yeah. It's just been an amazing journey. Scotty, you've been around, you've seen a lot.
Sure.
You know, so you get a feeling for what it is. Boy, it'd be really interesting TV movie or a movie. You could really do some incredible stuff with it. But I'd like to get a personal assistant, really, because I take it on more than I should already. But if I had a assistant, somebody could help me. I've written plenty of books and stuff, that somebody could help me write that stuff. And just, there's so much we could attend to on a daily basis, you know. But they'll emerge somewhere along the line if and when the time is right, you know. I think that's it, huh, Scotty?
Yeah, that was good.
I think that'll do it. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. It means a lot to me that you're listening. And I don't see people's email addresses or know who they are when they listen in, but I can see the countries that they're from. And I find it really interesting that we have people from all over the world listen to podcasts, and it means a lot to me. Everyone, whatever country. So thanks for listening. We'll talk with you again next week.